There are many benefits to incorporating online discussion into one's classes, including the fact that the online medium is an effective way of getting introverted students, who may be hesitant to raise their hand in class, to contribute to the discourse. Moreover, online discussion, which typically takes the form of asynchronous written postings, grants students a greater opportunity to formulate their thoughts, which can allow for richer, deeper discussions than those that take place in real time in the classroom. Finally, having students post before class can serve as a form of just-in-time teaching, by which the instructor can look for trends in student responses, topics that are of interest, misconceptions or points of confusion, and so forth. Knowledge of these subjects before class can allow for a more meaningful in-person discussion during the class period, as a foundation has already been laid. Moreover, the instructor can adjust his or her discussion questions and learning activities based on these trends. Nevertheless, in order to derive the maximum learning benefits from this type of discussion, instructors should consider certain challenges and best practices. The primary challenge of incorporating online discussion boards into class is getting students to utilize these forums in a way that is meaningful. Typically, this requires a good deal of structure on the part of the instructor. One should not simply set up a discussion forum and tell students that they are expected to post. The online discussions should be integrated into the larger architecture of the course, with students posting in response to homework readings, class assignments, and so on. Students are far less likely to participate if they do not see a specific link between the posting requirement and the course material. Furthermore, the instructor should create specific discussion prompts for different forums, rather than allowing for general postings or broad responses on the part of students. Without specific guidance, students will likely post broad, subjective responses, which they can likely construct without having completed the assigned readings anyway. If we want quality responses, we need to prompt them. Instructors should likewise establish specific posting requirements or expectations. For example, requiring students to post one comment by Tuesday, at least one response to a peer's comment by Wednesday, and a concluding response by Thursday before the forum closes out on, say, Friday. I should mention, though, that in the debate about quantity versus quality, quality should always take priority. That is, just because the students are meeting the posting requirements does not guarantee that a high-quality discussion is taking place. As I will note a little later, students have a tendency to respond in fairly superficial ways when they are asked to reply to one another. Furthermore, I think we can all agree that there are better ways of using our time and talent than simply counting the number of student postings. We should be actively trying to steer the online discussion toward a meaningful purpose, and we can do so by modeling good responses and being active posters ourselves. Another way to help ensure widespread participation in online discussions is to set up discussion groups rather than utilizing full class discussions. As an online discussion gets larger with more and more postings, students are far less likely to invest the time and effort in reading all of their peers' posts. If there's a peer response requirement, they will likely post a reply to the first post that they see, rather than scrolling through all of the postings and contributing in a more meaningful way based on actual point of interest raised by a peer. Creating a small group with its own discussion forum keeps the online discussion more manageable and will help ensure that the cadets read all of their peers' postings. Moreover, you can create continuity between in-class activities and online discussions if you base the groups on groups that exist within the classroom. You can also create synthesis by having different groups engage different prompts or subjects, and then taking time in class to have these different groups share the results of their online discussions with the entire group. Another challenge of online discussions relates to synthesis. This is a common problem in face-to-face discussions too, by the way. Sometimes you can have a lot of great individual talking points on the parts of students, but there's not an overarching sense of purpose or direction to the discussion, nor any concrete takeaway. In regard to the online discussion, one of the benefits is that you have a concrete record of the comments, as opposed to a series of spoken comments which are fleeting. However, the individual posts will not synthesize themselves into something concrete. So, one recommended strategy is to have students take turns summarizing the major takeaway points and talking points from the online discussions. You can further incentivize this by giving the entire group a grade based on that particular student's summary, as opposed to grading each individual contribution or posting. That will prompt the students to work together more closely and to actually listen to one another. As I noted previously, sometimes online posting tends to be superficial, particularly regarding students' reactions to one another's postings. Rather than steeped in higher order thinking skills, they go for the lowest common denominator response. This is especially true when there's a requirement that students reply to one another. A recent article on the teaching blog, facultyfocus.com, addressed this in a somewhat satirical fashion. Generally, students will respond to one another by agreeing enthusiastically and in the most superficial way possible. After all, it's easier to agree than to disagree and to raise a potential counterpoint. However, before I place all the blame on the students, I think we need to remember that as instructors, we set the tone for what will follow. Thus, it's very important to create the right types of prompts that will promote critical thinking and insightful analysis. Consider the following example from that Faculty Focus article that I mentioned. Quote, lists the events that triggered World War I, unquote. Now that's a pretty poor prompt. It's a fact-based question, and students will essentially be transcribing information from their textbooks rather than thinking for themselves. Furthermore, there's no way that they can respond to one another unless it be to point out things that their peers left out, which is not really a discussion. Conversely, consider this better prompt. Quote, of the events that contributed to World War I, which one is the most underrated or overlooked and why? Unquote. That question will provoke a much deeper and richer online conversation, and there are opportunities for both discussion and disagreement. Some other strategies regarding prompts and discussion questions can be found in Jay Howard's book on participation in the college classroom. He recommends what's called the 4-question technique, which is designed to promote increasingly deep levels of critical thinking. This concept is also helpful inasmuch as it can provide much-needed structure to an online discussion. The 4 levels of questioning are analyzing, reflecting, relating, and finally questioning. An analysis level question asks students to identify and examine an important idea or concept in their reading. A follow-up reflection question asks students to explain why that concept or idea is important. Then students can try and apply the concept or idea to their own experience or simply to a different context. Finally, students are encouraged to identify unresolved questions raised by the concept or idea. So you see, this structured and systematic approach has been proven to enhance students' demonstrations of critical thinking in online forums. Moreover, since there's a definite sequence here, and since the discussion medium is online posting, students can actually trace how their response and their analysis evolves over time, based on these different levels of requirement. And each post can theoretically build upon its predecessor.